why I was scared, and this is why I was bad at this, and this. It's the same exact thing that you're going through right now. You've never felt a bar on your shoulders and like against your neck. You've never had something that heavy and that awkward in this position, and it's scary. But like you guys were there and you went through it, and I got to watch you guys like rip. You guys have seen me work out. You've seen me do these things. There needs to be this. Then I think that builds the mutual trust. Right. And so I think I do jump at those moments of like some of this outdoor ed stuff because it forces me into a situation where the kids are going to see me fail. Right. Like the river trip, I fell in. I was the only one that fell in on one of the days. Like I was just messing around, like my boat tips and the kids are all like, oh, Coach Kirk fell in. So then it's like when we actually hit one of the big rapids and they get launched, I'm like, hey, it's not so bad, right? And they're like, all right, yeah. If you can get back on the boat, like I'm good. I don't know. So kind of back to that point of like, it's good to set boundaries. Like these kids need boundaries, but there's also needs to be a balance between your boundaries and your vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right. And like, how vulnerable are we with our athletes? It's kind of the daily question that I kind of ask. Like, all right, when we get into a situation, like, all right, is this a time to be vulnerable? Is this a time to set a boundary? Right?
Yeah. It's interesting too, because it's so easy. One, it's like being vulnerable is difficult and at times. And then it's like, is this good timing for me to be vulnerable? And then it's easy to get caught up in the like, we got to practice, we got to train, we got to do this, and it's, maybe more of like a life lesson. It's like, we have time, whether it's, I think about that even when like you're talking about like planning experiences for our own life. It's like, there's not a lot of time. We got to make the most of it, but also you got to realize you do have time. So it's like, it's okay to break off, and kind of like when I was using the running and jiu-jitsu example, it's like, it's not the end of the world if I don't go to train and jump and I do one running event, and then you remember that experience. And it's like, cool. Now apply that to coaching and working with athletes. It's like, you do have time to be vulnerable. Like no one's going to freak out if you cut 3 minutes from the lift to talk about something that could be more impactful for the rest of the year for that specific individual.
Yeah. 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 It's, I don't know. I would love to hear a college strength coach be like, you know what, I'm going to take everyone, we're going to go do this hike together.
Do you ever wrestle with like,
we're going to go do it?
Yeah.
Do you ever,
oh no, dude, one thing I wrestle with is like, they're going to get hurt, which is, it sucks. Like that's where we're at now, but it's like, that part makes me nervous it's like when you try to do something fun, and like, I remember a couple years ago, we played dodgeball with the baseball team, and like one of the dudes got drilled in the head. And I was like, as a coach, I'm like, I feel so bad that this kid got hit in the head and like got blown up. But you're like, that's just like playing games and it's a part of it. I don't know. It's this weird tension where the human is so resilient. We're so much more resilient than we think. But then at the same time, it's like, I remember women's basketball, like we played soccer one year and like 2 girls sprained their ankle when we were just playing like 4v4 soccer on the turf. And I'm like, oh my, this was like 2019 or something, but it's like, oh my God, if we can't just like play 2x4 minutes of 2 sets of 4-minute handball on the turf, I'm like, how are we going to play freaking real 5-on-5 basketball against another team? Which, yeah, it's so funny. Like that paradox.
when I was with the Reds, I was with their AAA program, and one of the things they used to do pre-stretch out at center field was hacky sack.
Oh yeah, dude, our baseball team does that, right?
And why do they do it? Because it's the safest alternative sport idea out there. And I remember asking my supervisor, I was like, do we ever do anything else? Like, he was like, yeah, one year I brought out a football and this guy jammed his finger and couldn't play that day, and I got in huge trouble. Right? Or something like we tried doing a frisbee, and then like something happened to a guy's hand, and it was like, And so I think the higher you go stakes wise on the field, so like college stakes are a bit higher. Like people's jobs are on the line for performance. That's the reality. Like I'm not getting fired if we don't win a state championship. And that doesn't mean we decrease the standard, but it also means like my net of fun kind of opens up. Like there are times I take the kids out and like we don't have football at our school. And one of the things I'll do for fun during a down week is like, all right, we're gonna go outside and you're gonna run routes. I'm gonna throw you the football.
Yeah.
Kids slip it. Like they wear Converse and like Vans and they slip and eat it all the time. And I'm like, I mean, if they get hurt doing this, like, I don't know. It is what it is. At a certain point now, when we're in the outdoors and we're doing stuff in the wilderness, it's always safety first. And it's always like your risk assessment. Like you do a big risk assessment before we go out. Identify everywhere there might be a risk, and potential risks is like on the water all the way to like stopping at the gas station and somebody saying or doing something weird to one of the kids. Right.
Yeah.
But it's kind of expected to like throw them into environments that has a bit of a risk. And, you know, I don't know, I've always said about our students, like they have the largest safety net I've ever seen of kids, like of all the kids I've ever worked with at all the different schools I've been at. Their safety net is so big because of the resources and their socioeconomic background, for a better sense of words. And they take the fewest. They're so risk adverse. They do not want to fail. And that's the level and the standard set in their household, their families, and the community. Whereas like I've coached at schools that are like extremely low income, like some of the kids are homeless and some of the kids are like the head of their household and they're taking risks every day and they have no safety net. And I think sometimes it's important to identify like how big is your athlete's safety net? You know, have you identified your own safety net? Like what is your safety net?
That's such a good question.
And are you willing to kind of push the boundaries of your safety net? And you learn a lot about people when they are or are not willing to take a risk. You know, I don't know.
That's a really good question. Yeah. What is your safety net and like what risks have you taken, or like how do you instill risk taking into even like small stakes? Like I've asked some of the athletes, I'm like, hey, like how it's weird saying good morning to people you walk by that you don't know, you know, like that's such small risk, but like that could lead to you saying what's up to other athletes or whatever that may be, or even instilling fun. You make me think about that with the football. It's like, I've ran into this with college student athletes. It's like you bust the football out or you bust like tennis balls out or soccer ball or something. And everyone's like, can we just warm up and lift? And it's like, oh no, you're on the conveyor belt now. Like if you bust the fun stuff out and they like don't want to, and then it's like, sometimes you'll run into that. They're like, no, like I just want to get that work in, you know, like I'm just driven, like blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, like you're on the, it's like, that's a good sign that they're like, maybe it's not everybody. Like some people do want to just get after it. Like, hey, I don't want to do the fun today. I want to like have fun with getting after it. But it's like, if you bust out the football, someone's like, can we just train? It's like, oh, you're box checking right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Instilling fun is, and instilling risk and understanding that safety net. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm finding that I'm playing more games with the kids than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing like 2-on-1 tag and a 10x10 square. It's
2-on-1 tag. That's it. So simple.
With no tag backs. It's like it's so fun to watch. I'll just laugh for 5 minutes. Like that might be our warm up. That might be our change of direction. That might be our deceleration, acceleration. Like that's we're hitting all three. Right? You watch the kid, you watch the movements, but at the end of the day, like they are having fun.
Yeah.
And they are giggling. Like your hardest 18-year-old teenage boy who's like no vulnerability, you put him in that environment and they're like, they turn into a 5-year-old again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
That's funny.
can you take your college athletes and turn them into 5-year-olds? And like, what do you get? Like, what do you see out of them?
Or you think about like how much fun are they going to have after their playing career in their 20s and their 30s if they can't even have fun when they're playing high school sports?
Yeah.
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 Like
Yeah,
that fun is
100%.
exponent. Like the fun is almost exponentially disappearing